Big surprise, I didn't like it. Okay, Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3, titled Crippling Disappointment.
Longest night?
Yeah.
It really did feel like the longest night while watching it. No, I'm being way too harsh. Yeah, well, why don't you hit us with a joke, Danielle? No, hit us with a joke.
I don't
Didn't
know.
think so. So I'm going to say the episode was a 7 out of 10. Let me hear it. Hit me with it.
9.76.
Oh my god, what a fanboy.
I was expecting you to rate it even lower, so I'm not
Me?
that upset, yeah.
I'm only rating it a 7 out of 10 because I know if I say anything else, no one's going to listen to me.
Oh yeah, you'll just be...
I basically might as well say, there's no water in our oceans, right?
Okay, Rob, so what did you not like about it?
The story. Okay, other than I had to pause my TV and turn the brightness up, whatever. I thought the choreography of the battle was cool. What they did when I first started watching and I saw the Dothraki run with the flame swords, and you see them disappear in the distance and the embers go away and it's fading. I'm like, this shot is genius.
Yeah, I really
You have our hope in this army with the hope with everyone else charge into battle and then disappear. I was like, this is going to be so cool. And then as the episode kept going, I was like,
wait, but let's not leave that moment.
No.
But so that suspense
Wait,
beforehand...
I'm sorry. I want to say one thing. At the very end of this, I have a big surprise for the both of you. Remind me, don't let this end without it.
I'm totally not reminding you.
I'll remember that.
Okay.
Anyway, so as a viewer, that moment before the Dothraki run out into what seems to be like an endless ocean of darkness, just as the viewer, did you feel yourself wanting to inch closer and closer to, you were genuinely trying to see? Like, it was such an immersive moment, I think.
I think you were generally trying to see because the episode was too dark.
Well, I mean, yeah.
That was literally the point.
I don't think it was.
That
Have
was
you ever seen any other movie that had nighttime in it?
Yeah, it's hard to see.
Nah.
The whole idea was you're not supposed to know how big that army is. You're supposed to fear how big that army is.
Like, you can't even discern one single soldier. It was just an ocean of death.
Other than the darkness, that's not really my problem
And he
with
was
the
also
episode.
bringing a shroud of, like, ice with him.
He didn't do that yet. My problem was essentially with the story. I watch Game of Thrones for the story. If I want to watch things dying, I'm going to put John Wick on. Okay? Yes, Game of Thrones has always had some cool fight scenes. I've never, ever knocked them for not being cool or original or unoriginal, I should say, with their fight scenes. It was the story. Sam died in that episode 6 times. Bran died 3 times. Jaime died 4 times. Arya got skull crushed 2 times. I can't think of a main character that wasn't hit with a sword.
Remember last week's episode and the week before?
Yeah.
That's where the story was. They wanted to make this episode one big giant battle.
I know you said you didn't watch the not the credits, them talking about it. Did you watch
No.
Okay. So they said exactly that. They said it's hard to make a battle scene this long and keep people's attention because it's just the same thing. So they wanted to focus on the characters and each character's different story. Arya running away, playing like, stealth mode inside the crypts, what was going on between Sansa and Tyrion, Jon and Daenerys. They wanted to show you isolated battles as well as the big battle. But inside each isolated battle was just this Marvel-style plot armor nonsense constantly happening with no intellectual writing inside those moments. The second time you realize the character's not going to die, you're kind of like, okay.
Okay, so I watched the episode twice.
Well, oh, so you're better than me. I didn't know. Okay, so go ahead.
So the first time I
Here,
watched
no, wait, hold on.
I have one. I'm good.
No, you need 2.
Okay, so when I watched it the first time, I felt the same way that you feel now. I felt that it was rushed. A lot of moments were contrived. Many of the characters were acting out of character. But watching it the second time, I think I had less of an emotional reaction. And as far as the story and the way that the story was going, especially with Arya being the one to finally bring the Night King, and bring the Dawn, rather, and bring the Night King to his untimely end, that made the most sense. She's been training for it all of her life. It echoed even throughout that episode earlier, demonstrating her stealth that she picked up from the many-faced god when she was training with Jack and Hagar. I felt closure.
Can I just mention for a second that Arya literally can sneak around more quietly than a drop of blood? She can walk quieter than a drop of blood.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Arya being a badass. She's been a badass for 3 seasons. Zero problem with that. My problem was the blue balls effect. How many seasons have they told us that winter is coming and the Night King is this amazing force to be reckoned with, can't be killed? The freaking Lannister army was a tougher fight. Jon Snow had a worse time in the Battle of the Bastards than he had here.
Throughout the episode, I found myself comparing the battle scene to Battle of the Bastards because that is like one of my favorite episodes. I feel like they were trying to convey the same amount of tension, but the Battle of the Bastards did seem to have a more linear story. With this battle scene, you have a lot of tangents that you have to jump around between characters.
Maybe because George R.R. Martin wrote the Battle of the Bastards and he didn't write any of this contrived bullshit.
I disagree, and I think this was the best battle they had so far. I was at the edge of my seat the entire time, and when the credits rolled, I looked at the time because I was like, there's no way an hour and a half went by. I was 100% super immersed in it. My girlfriend was freaking out next to me every time somebody almost died.
How many times can someone almost die and then not? Okay, this is Game of Thrones, right? We're watching Game of Thrones, a series where any character at any moment can be taken from you. You don't feel like that after the second contrived anime-style rescue.
How are you going to put all of your main characters on the battlefield and be able to show off their fighting prowess without giving them a little bit of plot armor to work with?
That's fine. I'm okay with a certain amount of plot armor, but you can't show me someone dying and then the next scene, other than it being dark, them okay. When they say okay go and the Dothraki die, and then the I guess they turned off the darkness filter, and the Lord of Light made everything go on fire, and they get charged. Brienne gets destroyed. She gets tackled by like 20 of them.
I actually thought she died.
And that would have been a sucky death right there. You'd been like, are you kidding me? Was this Star Wars? Because, you know, she dies in Star Wars instantly. But you show her get obliterated immediately. You show Jaime get obliterated. And then out of nowhere, they're like, no, that didn't happen. You were confused. It was dark. You were looking at the wrong character. You see her go down. You saw Jaime go down. So here's a better episode in less than a couple of minutes. So you just had the kind of love moment between Jaime and Bran in the previous episode. You had the love moment between Grey Worm and the other girl. What's her name? Missandei. Again, showing that Grey Worm is now becoming more human, I want to say, than Unsullied. Like, he's showing characteristics that make him different.
Sure he was going to walk on the other side of the moat. And with his
but in this one, other than him showing fear and showing that he's being untrained now, because Unsullied don't have fear, no hesitation, they're just warriors. It seems like he lost that. But here's what happens. Bran loves Jaime, and Jaime kind of cares for Bran. So have a scene where one of them is completely screwed and the other one has to sacrifice themselves for it. So when they die knowing how much they mean for each other. Bran and or Jaime should have died in that battle. Someone should have been completely screwed and they sacrifice, and that's the way they get out. When they couldn't light the trenches on fire because Daenerys forgot she had a dragon and just to fly back towards the castle, because you know how you can fly up in a storm, you know, like how planes do it. But when they couldn't find that and they had to charge out, you should have had Grey Worm and the rest of the Unsullied be like, you want to know what? We have to go back out there, and fending them off, and his sacrifice could have been them lighting all those stuff. And then you would have had the Night King be like, whatever, force powers, and tell them to jump on the flames. Make your characters have meaning. Your characters in Game of Thrones always have meaning. No one had meaning in this. It was just pointless. I'm hitting a skeleton stabs me in the face, but it missed for some reason.
I think that was the point, though, that a lot of these characters were just pawns. That was not the battle. You cannot extinguish death through sheer power. Only death can defeat death, and that's why Arya was able to do what she did. But I think really that was all noise, and that was meant for us to be perceived as noise ultimately.
Okay, let me hit you with this. I know you said you didn't watch the people talking, even though you watched the episode twice. You should have. What they said before I get there, you see Daenerys burn the Night King, right? And it turns out he can't be killed by fire. So whatever, I don't have a problem with that. Can't be killed by fire. I like the smirk on his face when he's like, can't be killed by fire, and he throws the javelin, but misses, even though he can hit a dragon moving at 1,000 miles an hour from 400 million feet away. That's not here nor there. He misses. When the Night King rezzed everyone that just died, they were more human than white. So they're going to have Valyrian steel swords and everything. So their chainmail's not stopping that.
Yeah, but those humans didn't really fight.
I think we're getting too granular. I'm talking about the same thing over and
I'm
over.
going to hit you with this one then. Battle of the Bastards. You had when Ramsay Bolton was trapped in Winterfell with a bow and arrow. They come in with the giant, right? Everyone's shooting arrows at the giant. Jon Snow gets in front of him. Where does Ramsay kill the giant? How does he do it?
Arrow in the eye.
Arrow in the eye. This giant that we saw, did he have a right eye? Nope.
No, he had a left eye.
Good. So he didn't have a right eye. Exactly where Ramsay shot the other giant. If Ramsay killed the giant in Winterfell and Jon was around, he would have burnt that body, would he not? How does the Night King have them on his team? And while you think about that, you had mindless warriors. So when little girl Mormont goes to fight the giant, other than him just coming in and
No, there's
pushing her
another
out of the way-
giant from Battle at Hardhome.
Okay, but why was this giant missing the eyeball in the same scene where Ramsay killed the other giant?
I think it's just an homage to
I think
Battle
it was,
of the Bastards.
oops. That giant was a White Walker, but when he goes to fight the little Mormont girl, he just picks her up. He was indiscriminately smashing people with his club, and then he's like, come here, let me put you so close to the only eye I have, letting you given the ability
Okay,
to kill
listen,
me.
I want to hear you go. So Battle of the Bastards again. Same scrutiny with Jon Snow.
Yeah.
When he was being trampled, he should have fucking died.
Yeah.
Right? But this is a story.
Okay.
Okay.
Blessed by the
So-
Lord of Light.
Huh?
Jon Snow was blessed by the Lord of Light.
All right. So we could say that a lot of characters are all pawns in the Lord of Light's plan to bring the dawn.
But my ultimate problem with this episode was just bangy bang, stick, shield block, and all the lore we possibly had for 8 seasons was thrown away.
They were literally fighting an army of mindless nothing. They were fighting a scourge more than a battle.
Okay.
There's no opportunity for there to be drama between people. There's no opportunity for any of that. They're just trying to not get killed by zombies. That was all this was. This is why zombie movies and shit are bad.
Okay, so
because
then
you can't make good story around zombies. Look at The Walking Dead.
I've already asked you this one, so I'm gonna blindside her with it, just because you didn't watch the after party where they're talking about everything. The Night King couldn't be killed by fire, right? How can he die?
By Valyrian steel.
Where?
He was created by Dragonstone, and he can be killed by Valyrian steel.
In the head, the toe?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
He was stabbed in the chest with the Dragonstone, and he was stabbed in the chest with the Valyrian
You've
steel.
activated my trap card, because they said while talking that he can only be killed by Valyrian steel in the exact spot that the Children of the Forest created him.
And that's where they created him, by the werewood tree.
Nope. By the exact spot is exactly in the spot.
Ooh, that's what he might have meant. He might have meant by the tree.
But that's a different tree.
No, it's not. It's the same tree. It's the werewood tree.
Oh, in Winterfell. That's where they created him?
It could have been. It's the north.
That's not where they created him.
Okay, so where did they create him? You know for a fact?
It's not place, it was position. They had to be stabbed in the exact same area. Don't get hung up that he got stabbed in a Burger King and created in a Burger King.
That's the significance of the werewood tree. You know that, right?
I don't care about that. What I care about is if I say you can only shoot a zombie in the head and you shoot him in the leg with a shotgun and he dies, you lied to me.
I would say
I think I proved my point, so I
No,
don't
you didn't.
understand.
You didn't.
that Arya was guided by the Lord of Light.
No, Lorelai doesn't do that.
It literally did.
The Lord of Light guided the dagger.
The Lord of Light guided Eye Patch McGee.
Yeah, ensured her survival.
Ensured her survival and made sure that she was the one who ended up killing the Night King. So he could have he could have been the one that made the Night King stop her to begin with.
And then there's another theory out there that she is Azor Ahai, the princess that was promised.
Take all your
the
theories.
bringer of
Take
the
all your
dawn.
theories and throw them over your shoulder like Luke Skywalker, because that's what this episode did to you. It doesn't care about what you thought. It doesn't care about lore. It doesn't care about story.
I think you're still emotionally tied up in this, and if you look at it objectively, the story makes sense. She's literally been training her whole life for that moment. But
other than the fight scenes, give me a good story moment, and I'll concede ground.
the Red Woman says to Arya, and what do we say to the god of death?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, not today. And that's what summons the courage and kind of triggers her to realize this is what I need to do. And also, before that, the Red Woman also says to her something that she had said to her seasons ago, that she would close the eyes of, I think, like 3 sets of eyes, green eyes, brown eyes, and blue eyes.
Okay.
The only story thread that this episode even needed was the Arya story thread.
Right.
Because they did all of the story stuff in the last 2 episodes already. They closed. This is exactly what I said. It was everybody getting together for the final battle of this 3-episode arc, and tying up all the loose ends, closing all the story holes, all that stuff. Okay, fight for your lives, and that's what this episode was. That's what this episode was intended to be. They weren't going to have any character development for the most part, except for maybe like the Hound to protect Arya, which was another good story point.
Another good one.
But this wasn't intended to grow any characters or really change anything. It was just, how the hell are they going to defend themselves against a scourge like this?
Okay, I can agree with that. What I will say was that, picture the Iron Throne right now, and we're about to see the battle who sits on the Iron Throne. What if you go into the throne room and just fucking Garfield is sitting on the Iron Throne? Just completely out of nowhere, left field, wasn't anything that you intended, wasn't anything that you thought anyone else intended, just comes out of nowhere.
And why would that happen?
Because that's exactly what happened with Bran, the Night King, the White Walkers. This powerful threat was stopped by, sure, let's say a prophecy. I don't want to take away from that, because it's just like Lord of the Rings with the voice of Sauron saying no man can kill him.
Okay, so where are you going with this right now?
Okay.
He's mad that the Night King didn't have this giant convoluted backstory.
It had to be convoluted.
The whole point, the reoccurring theme is, they knew that they were not going to be able to fight this. You cannot wage a war against death. You can't.
Okay.
So you would have to be swifter than death, and Arya is swifter than death, because she's been training her whole life, and the culmination of her training has given her that ability. And obviously she's been chosen by the Lord of Light to be the one to bring the dawn. So there could not have been a more perfect way to bring him to an end.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to take away anything from Arya. She's one of the most badass characters. If anything, 100% she deserves to get the kill. Have no problem with that. The problem was the prelude and the outcome of it. Arya literally teleports from castle to Assassin's Creed mode. Well, was the whole plan, did the Night King know that Theon is amazing because he doesn't have a penis anymore and he can fight off thousands of White Walkers? No. They were just going to assume that Theon and like 10 guys can hold off White Walkers in the middle of a field. What would happen if Theon died? It would just ransack Bran?
Well, the whole point, their whole plan went to shit immediately as soon as Daenerys and Jon decided to get involved with the dead rather than staying with Bran.
I'm not talking about the humans' plan. I'm talking about the Night King's plan. He branded Bran to always find him. He wanted to know where he was because he wanted to kill him. My theory is that the Night King was so mad at the Children of the Forest, he wanted to kill all of them like he did, but also the Three-Eyed Raven is a product of the Children of the Forest magic. So he wanted to kill every part of them. Mm-hmm. That's why he wanted Bran. And Jeff brought up a good point today saying that the Night King is very theatrical, right? Every scene he's been in, he's like, oh, the Night King. He walks so slow, how he walks through fire, how he rests his thing. He's theatrical, right? So in that moment where he wants to kill Bran, he's like, oh, I've waited so long for this. I'm gonna do it. I don't have a problem with his theatrics of it. I have a problem with Arya went from being completely trapped by thousands of undead behind an iron door after being told that, like, what do you say to death? To teleporting into the field of Winterfell.
This is her childhood home, and she knows it better than anybody else.
Okay.
So that's why she.
You see how we're here right now? We live here.
But we don't know the past.
If a murderer came through that house, would you jump out the window?
But we don't know exactly how much time has passed.
You don't think that moment was contrived? You had 8 seasons of generals, him stealing. Why is he stealing children now?
She is the most akin to the Night King. That is why she's able to walk among them and be among them. That was the whole point of that scene.
she walked with death.
So she's really the only one that is able to do that, because she herself is essentially forged and galvanized by death when she was training with Jack and Hagar again. So that's why they had that scene earlier in the episode. So that's the rationale for her being able to sneak up on the generals and the Night King and assassinate him.
Okay, I get that. Okay. So she snuck up, he turned around and caught her. Jeff pointed out in one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, with Bran.
Well, no, with Bran, that was, definitely a callback for sure, the same moves. That was cool. But also remember Jon Snow, and he was sitting there near the tree, and she snuck up on him, and he's like, how'd you sneak up on me? Showing, like, how quiet she's going to be in the future. But knowing that he can only be killed in the same spot on his body, not in a Burger King, doesn't matter. He has to be stabbed in the exact same spot in his body where he was created, not location-based. It doesn't make any sense. If he had to be stabbed exactly where it was, one, she's never going to know where to stab him. She could have stabbed him in the eye, in the arm, and thought he was going to die. So it would have been really cool. Arya's such a badass, it would have sucked. Arya's such a badass. She survived all that stuff, makes him, jumps behind him, does the thing, and he's like, oh crap. She drops the dagger, it falls, and she stabs him. He's like, huh! He's stabbed, and then he just stabs her under the throat. Because you can only hit him in that spot. Then he takes Bran or kills Bran, whatever he's going to do with him. He's going to touch the kid like he always does.
And then Winterfell falls and everybody dies.
I think you're getting caught up too much in the details, and that's why.
Are you kidding me? Caught up in the details? That's the whole point of the show.
No, but like as far as like location off by like a couple of 3 inches.
It doesn't have to be. Arya died and Bran died there, and then Winterfell has to fall. You could have made something back to being important with Jon Snow, with Daenerys, with any other character. Sure, it could have been, Arya deserved the kill and she did everything right, but that's the whole point of this. When you do everything right in the face of death, death can still claim you. It doesn't matter who you are, your skills.
She's imbued with death.
She's not. She rebuked it when she says, I'm no longer no one. A girl is no one. A girl is Arya Stark.
When she's speaking to Gendry in the previous episode, and she was telling him that death has many faces and she's looking forward to seeing this one. Mm-hmm. She's very well acquainted with death. But yes, she rebuked it, but she really is the only one that would be able to defeat him because she knows what it takes. Jon Snow, like that, I really like that scene where he kind of just lifts all of the undead again.
While Jon's running right
racing, trying to get there in time, but that is such a poignant moment. It perfectly illustrates what that whole episode is about. And how futile it is to try to extinguish the Night King using force.
Literally everybody who would go against the Night King would lose.
Yeah.
Except for the first people that fought him back after the long night.
It was Azor Ahai, and she is Azor Ahai again.
She's Azor Ahai?
The Lightbringer, yeah, she uses Lightbringer.
That sounds like a very masculine name.
No, it says, and they, again, in an earlier episode, when the Red Woman is telling Daenerys of this prophecy, she mentions she speaks to her in High Valyrian, and the one term prince or princess, it's not gender specific. So
she was talking about Daenerys.
Yes, she thought, in that moment she thought it was Daenerys, but the Red Woman was wrong many times. She thought it was Stannis, then she thought it was Jon Snow, then she thought it was Daenerys.
Okay, so is this an allegory for like religion, that the god was giving them cryptic, deceptive messages that can't be interpreted and they're fucked?
The Red Woman wasn't supposed to be interpreting the messages. She was just supposed to be doing what the Lord of Light said, and that was the Red Woman's mistake over and over again, was that she kept trying to be like, oh, this is how I think this is going to go. Mm-hmm. But really, she should have just been doing what the Lord of Light wanted her to do and not question it. Mm-hmm. Granted, Lord of the Light, take it as you will, but he obviously doesn't like the White Walkers.
Okay.
He doesn't want darkness. He's a light. He likes the light. I don't have the entire lore of the show in my brain, but I'm sure you could probably go back to the first season and kind of find moments where the Lord of Light may have impacted something.
I think one of my biggest things is this is the only thing I've watched in a very long time that put forth so many symbols, so many red herrings, so many foreshadowing, and followed through on none of it. That's my biggest problem.
I think you're mad because you like to be right all the time, and all your theories were wrong.
It could be as though the viewer's the red woman, and you were trying to bring in your own human perspective instead of just letting the story play out for what it is.
Well, I'm kind of out of points right now. If you guys want to say anything.
No. Honestly, I loved the episode. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. It was exactly what I expected it to be. And Arya is the best.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was my favorite episode, but I think in terms of Arya, because she definitely is one of my favorite characters, just seeing everything play out the way that it did, especially like the second time around, I definitely have an appreciation for the part that everybody played in that episode.
So if you guys had to rate the episode, we'll go down the line. If you needed to rate the episode number-wise out of 10, what do you give it?
Like an 8.5 out of 10.
I'm going to give it 9 balloons out of 6 hippos.
I still give it a 7 out of 10. You guys haven't changed my mind, but that's because I'm a stubborn asshole. If we have to, I'm going to add like a part 2 to this one. Maybe I'm wrong and it takes me a week to figure it out. Maybe I'm right and I put together a whole convoluted plot and I ruin the whole internet. But
I will say one thing. I don't think we mentioned this earlier. I know we talked about this earlier, but both me and Danielle, while watching the episode completely separately, both had moments in our head where we were like, oh, Ralph's going to hate this because he's an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Now, I knew you guys weren't going to remind me of this, but here's the surprise that I waited the whole episode to tell you guys. It almost felt like 8 seasons. And that surprise is...